Welcome to Global Village, and thank you for joining us today. We have two great guests today, Mayor Martin Schulz of Brooks area and Inspector Maltz of Medicine Hat Police Services. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Could you tell us if there is any accomplishment that you have in mind for your third term as a mayor of great city of Brooks?
Thank you. You bet. One of the things that has taken us quite a while to get organized is the rebuild of our Recreation Leisure Center. It's been a challenge to get the finances in place to do this, but we believe we are there now. So we will be having indoor soccer as part of this and building a new library as part of this building, including it. So it takes a while to get finances straight, but we'll now start with the plans and start working on that. So it'll be a busy year working on that and moving ahead on that. So that's one of the major projects we're working on.
That's a good one, and that will attract a lot of people who love the soccer, inside soccer games, especially the immigrant population.
You bet.
Okay, Inspector Maltz, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Ahmed, first of all, for inviting me here. I appreciate it. I've been a member of the Medicine Hat Police Service for 34 years. Part of the executive team of the police service, and I'm responsible to provide leadership to our operations division. And that includes patrols, inter-victim services, and a few other units like that within the police service.
So how many number police people that you have, the police?
We have 114 sworn members. We have around 30 civilian staff. We then have 8 or 10 community peace officers, which look after our bylaw, and then about 50 to 60 victim services volunteers and auxiliary constables.
Wow, you don't have RCMP?
No, we do not.
Oh.
Medicine Hat is the municipal agency, and we provide policing to the community of Medicine Hat.
And you don't have sheriff?
No, we do not have sheriffs here either.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's sheriffs in the region,
yeah,
but not in the city of Medicine Hat.
Not in the city of Medicine Hat. Okay. Mr. Mayor, tell us a little bit about how best you think we can attract manpower or labor force to Brooks and County of New York.
Well, that's a good question in the sense of Alberta is a very strong economy, and as a strong economy, you need people to make it work, whether you're in Medicine Hat, whether you're in Brooks, Calgary, Fort McMurray. We need an increased labor force because business is and the economy is strong in Alberta. So attracting people here is a challenge. There are people who do move from other parts of Canada here, but that still hasn't been enough to fill a lot of the positions. So it's then going to immigration in the sense of trying to make that work. There are some sectors of people in our community that are not gainfully or fully employed, and I think that's another sector that's a piece of it. But the immigration is a large piece of how we attract people to our country, and I think that's something that needs to continue to be worked out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Inspector Maltz, how best you attract, for example, in disabled minorities to the police services or police force?
Well, like as Mr. Mayor said, and in many other industries, you try to attract people to your industry, and you use a multitude of methods to do that. We've always had a goal to hire the best people for the positions that we might have available.
Yeah.
And so when we do recruit processes, we hire from, we advertise, globally, if you will. And over the years, we have some immigrant individuals to Canada, usually from the United Kingdom or from South Africa is where our immigrants have come from for our policing. We don't have a lot, but we certainly are open to people who are interested in law enforcement to certainly look at our website and see what opportunities exist.
So anyone can apply?
Yes, there are requirements, specific requirements, and they're all listed on the website. And there's a significant process to go through to get into law enforcement.
There you go. Mr. Mayor, temporary foreign worker, which is part and parcel of immigration system. As you know, the government has some tough measures against the program itself. What do you think the impact will have a southeastern Alberta, either Medicine Hat or specifically to the Brooks County of Newell in terms of temporary foreign worker?
Well, that is a challenge. The federal government, in coordination with the province, determines immigration levels, and temporary foreign worker program was part of that. So as they built this program starting almost 10 years ago, as they started trying to find a way to increase the number of people in their workforce in different places in the country, they've made adjustments to it and they've changed it, trying to make it work the best it can for all over Canada. So some areas, in a sense, Alberta, it's there's just more bodies needed, more people, and so they try to make the program fit and work, and then that's the responsibility of the provincial government to work with the federal government to make that work. And so that's an ongoing discussion that happens. They've made changes, they've done different things. I think, the company of JBS in Brooks is a company that people think that they may have a lot of temporary foreign workers there, and at one time they did, but they've reduced the number of temporary foreign workers at the Lakeside plant to match the government's numbers of how many employees you can have. But those are all different things in the sense when they change it. Business people have to learn what those new rules are, how it works, and our agencies and our communities work with those families and those people to make it work.
But was it beneficial to have the temporary foreign work in terms of the growth of the city and the growth of the county?
Yeah, absolutely. In the province of Alberta, I think there's probably about at least 60,000 temporary foreign workers in Alberta, and that's a significant part of the workforce. So it's a piece of our economy that has worked, and I believe there's a place for it ongoing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. There are a lot of visible minorities who always, when you talk about domestic violence, for example, they perceive themselves, if someone calls from the minorities, the police will definitely respond in a different way than when they respond to the mainstream. What would you say about that? Is it perception from individual, or?
I would say it's certainly perception. When our people respond to a domestic violence situation, we respond in the same way all the time. Okay. In some circumstances, we find with some of our immigrant friends who experience these difficulties in their life, they may not be able to relate to our language in a way that they can understand exactly the process. Okay. So we are certainly sensitive to the need to have interpreters, and so that they can walk through that whole justice system if appropriate, or even receiving supports to help them deal with whatever it might be dealing with from a domestic perspective. And also our Victim Services Unit has information that's available in different languages as well. Wow. Like pamphlets, etc. So we certainly are aware that we have an immigrant population that have needs of us, and we try to be as responsive to those needs as we can.
Thank you. And you do have intervention method too.
Yes, I think we've the intervention for domestic violence, much like many other occurrences in the city. First of all, our police officers go to respond to a circumstance like that, and they will determine whether is there a safety risk? Is there some criminality that occurred in this exact circumstance? Is there some risk factors that have to be determined? Once those things are figured out, they'll move on to like a next phase. They'll resolve that situation for the time being, and then that report is submitted, and then that report is viewed by our Victim Assistance Unit, as well from a domestic perspective, as well as our Safe Families Intervention Team, which is a new team in Medicine Hat. And those two groups then, are two units within our police service, will look at seeing what intervention methods or initiatives can be employed with a family to see what risk factors there are. They'll walk victims through the justice system if that's the appropriate circumstance. So we have certainly a full range of services that are available and helps that are available to all peoples that find themselves in contact with us.
And that will lead me to the same question. I think congratulations for Expo and the domestic intervention. Both of them have received award. If you want to tell us a little bit about those awards they received.
Absolutely. It's great to be recognized. People are doing a good job, but to be recognized provincially, one by the Alberta Municipalities Association for the work that our Expo community still works within our community. It's been there for a number of years, but the Taste of Nations is an event that's grown. We had about 15 different countries at our Taste of Nations, very, very popular event. So those kinds of things go on. It was Municipal Affairs who recognized a provincial award for our domestic violence intervention team. So to get those two awards in the same week from two organizations this past month was great recognition for the work that people on the ground are doing, volunteers, a lot of support, interagency cooperation. So when you get volunteers and interagency cooperation projects approved, that's fantastic.
Wow, so that is last week they received them.
Yes, in Edmonton, both of those, one on a Tuesday and one on a Thursday, from two different groups.
Wow, that is great. You want to tell us about the difference between the role of the sheriff and the role of the city police in terms of the boundaries?
Well, in Alberta, as a municipal police agency, we have authorities in the province of Alberta.
Yeah.
We provide policing services to the city of Medicine Hat. There are specifically sheriffs who are provincial employees that work with the RCMP, and they have a number of roles. One of them is they do traffic enforcement on our highways. They also do prisoner escorts and court security, and then those are the two ones that most people would see locally here.
So is it same as the U.S. Marshal, what they have in the South? They have...
the U.S. has so many variations of law enforcement. I don't even know, but there would be designated as a peace officer.
Okay.
Under the Peace Officer Act, and
for federal.
No, under provincial.
Or the sheriffs.
The sheriffs.
Oh.
And they have authorities then to enforce provincial statutes.
So they are not federal then.
They're not federal.
Oh, okay. Wow. I thought they were federal for some reason.
Yeah, no, the sheriffs are not.
Well, life is a learning process.
Yes, for us too.
So when you have you respond to visible minorities and you have a challenge of culture or language, do you have a place to call so they can help out? Or
yes, we've been very fortunate in Medicine Hat. We use the services of Samus Immigration. We use them a lot, and they provide a lot of understanding for our people. And in turn, they also provide help and understanding to those that I might be in contact with.
Good.
And so we've used them for interpretive services to try and understand the culture. And we have other groups that work with Samus Immigration that bring their cultural differences to light as well, and help us do our job better and help them integrate into our community, hopefully better as well.
You guys are doing a great job. Mr. Mayor, coming back to the other flip, to flip the coin, the Bow Valley has been the new area for federal MPs. Given the fact that MB LeVar Bain was our MB and still MB until 2015, do you want to tell us the new riding, where that starts and ends?
Sure. I think it's a good question because for a long time, County of Newell, which includes Brooks, Bazzano, that has been part of the Medicine Hat riding. And they had a redistribution in Alberta where Alberta gained 6 more seats. Well, they had to look at how do we create new ridings and new members, and they go by trying to keep people as similar numbers in each riding. So I think the target number was about 103, 105,000. They try to keep them as equal as possible. So when they drew the lines, the County of Newell Brooks was taken out of what was the Medicine Hat riding, which we worked hard, tried to stay in that. We made we sent letters, and we appeared before the panel saying, no, this is our natural traffic patterns is on the Highway 1, Medicine Hat is part of that, but we didn't win. So now we are separated in the sense of political boundaries from the Medicine Hat riding, which has new boundaries. So Brooks is what's called the Bow River constituency, which includes the Municipal District of Taber and Taber, Vauxhall, then to County of Newell and Brooks, then west of the County of Vulcan, and then County of Wheatland, which takes in Strathmore, and right up to the Calgary city limits, so Chestermere, and then north into Rocky View and Kneehill County, almost to Three Hills and almost to Drumheller, but not Kneehill and Drumheller. So it's a large riding that includes Chestermere, Strathmore, Brooks, and Taber, but right up to the city of Calgary, but no longer part of Medicine Hat, which we do miss and which we would have preferred to stay with.
There you go. But we will have a very close collaboration.
Right. You bet.
There you go.
We're not going away.
There you go.
Medicine Hat is still our largest trading center and closest to us. So, and you're right, LeVar Payne is still our MP until the election is called.
Okay. Today was the first day of the flu shot. I believe you were at the hospital, and you want to tell us a little bit about the benefit of the flu shot, given the fact that there are a lot of media talks about all this Ebola and all that other factors. People are a little bit frightened by what they see on the TV nowadays.
Absolutely. It's a good point. You know, flu shots have always been in favor. Public health is, I think, critical in our communities. It keeps a lot of people healthy, and so been a large proponent of people getting flu shots. Now, people tell you I get a flu shot and I still get the flu. Well, the way the process works, it's hard to cover every germ that develops out there in the world by the time you develop a vaccine, get it made, and distribute it. But it does significantly help public health. And when you're in your public health services, like your police services, your health services, the critical parts of your community, you know, the more people have a vaccine that helps you lessen the chances of getting those flus, the better. So very strong proponent of that. And vaccines, you know, we've lived through, I'm old enough to remember polio. You're too young to remember that. When the vaccines were developed, the measles ones. There's been more recent times people believing that there's some very bad thing with vaccines out there and it's going to be doing bad things. And that is so wrong, because the public health really needs this in the sense of vaccinations, and flu vaccinations are part of that. So I always encourage as many people as possible to get that, keep our communities as healthy as possible.
Thank you very much. Inspector, the people applying for the law enforcement, is it declining, and why is it that?
Yes, you know, over time it's cyclical. People's interest in becoming involved in law enforcement certainly was high years and years back, and then there was other industries that you know are interest to folks. There's a lot more educational opportunities through school now that they can get into different jobs, and there was a time when policing wasn't hiring, and things kind of stagnated there, and people weren't leaving law enforcement, and we weren't bringing a lot of people in, and that's cyclical as well.
Oh, okay.
And so when there's no demand, people aren't sitting in limbo. They want to go, and they want to go find a job somewhere, and sometimes their interests you know, shift to other things. And so you know, right now we're finding ourselves under a bit more of a challenge to find candidates that would be suitable for law enforcement in our community. And you know, some of the bigger centers, Calgary and Edmonton, we understand are having huge recruiting drives currently. They're in those now, And because of a lot of attrition that's going on, there are a lot of retirements that are going on there. They're needing to add new bodies. Plus, growth in those communities are forcing them to bring on new people as well. So those two agencies I know in Alberta have hired a lot. I know Lethbridge has brought a number of people on over the last year. And for us, it's basically retirements that would force us to recruit. We haven't increased our numbers in Medicine Hat for about 6-7 years.
Wow.
You know, one of the things that has changed in the sense of names, and it really has been a significant change. They used to be called police forces, right? They're called police services. And so it is about service and people wanting to be involved in a career that's about service. And I think that's really, the change just might have seemed minor to some people, but yet that is a critical piece in the sense it is a service to our communities. And so when they call them police services, they are. So if people want to be involved in careers that are service to the communities, that's a good career path.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But in terms of Brooks, are you, in order for Brooks to have their own policing, similar with Medicine Hat, would that be subject of the number of the citizens living in Brooks, or is it just any city can have their own police services?
It's a choice that communities make.
Okay.
We choose to be with the RCMP. Tabor, for example, chooses to have their own municipal force.
Oh.
And they've had that discussion over the years. Coaldale had their own, then they went with Lethbridge. And now I think they're looking at the RCMPs.
Yeah.
So that's a community decision,
Oh.
whether you choose to have your own force or work with another community force. So that's a choice made with the community.
I think Camaros, which would be similar in size to
Yeah.
Brooks, I think now they have their own police service, and Lacombe does as well.
Right.
Oh, so it depends on the city.
Yes.
Oh.
Community choice.
Oh, that's the community choice if they
Yeah.
want to have. But having the RCMP, they will save far more than having their own.
Well, that's a decision that you need to look at and study that and see if it's a financial one or a community input one type of thing. There's all sorts of factors with it. So it's just not straight one factor that gets involved.
Okay. But in terms of Medicine Hat, you still have RCMP overall as a federal on the highways and collaboration with RCMP.
Yes, we work closely with the RCMP. As you know, we've got the ALERT, which is the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Teams, and Medicine Hat has partnered with ALERT and with the RCMP, and we provide a lot of organized crime and drug enforcement to the region, which includes Brooks, and that has been hugely successful in the Brooks community as well as for us. And so we do collaborate a lot with our partners in law enforcement, whether it be the RCMP or other municipal agencies, and you know, we are responsible for policing in Medicine Hat. Sometimes those investigations take us to other places, and we do that. And but yeah, we certainly value the partnerships we have.
But you have nothing to do with Redcliffe.
No, there was a time when Redcliffe, as well as you explained, Redcliffe had their own town police.
Oh.
And back, I believe, in the 90s, there was conversation between the politicians, and they chose to have us come in on contract. And I believe we had a 5-year contract at that point in time. And at the end of that 5-year contract, the town of Redcliffe chose to go to the RCMP. So much like the arrangement that Lethbridge had with Coaldale, it's a similar sort of a situation there.
But what he's saying is really changed in southeastern Alberta. And it was one of the leaders in the sense of different forces working together.
Yeah.
And it was an example for the province where, you know, people that are breaking the law really don't pay much attention to the boundaries of the communities. Makes no difference to them. And I think in the southeast there was a tremendous amount of cooperation between the forces to say, you know, if we're working at this, we need to work together. And so it was an example, again, of cooperation between forces, but it was a leader in the sense of, in this area for the province, of that kind of cooperation.
Yeah, it was, you know, John Haley, the sergeant in charge, or staff sergeant in charge of Brooks at the time, we had a relationship with him. first as a person, and then the drug culture in that community overflowed into Medicine Hat and vice versa. So it was those conversations that we need to work together, and so without any, we just started doing it. We just started helping them out and working with them because we had similar interests and similar desire to make a difference in our communities. And then government, as Martin said, government got involved and had a mechanism through the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Teams to I guess amalgamate and their efforts and provide some funding for that as well. So it's been a huge success, not only for for drug enforcement, but for integrated risk and threat assessments, for child exploitation. Huge example of the cooperation and forcing that cooperation, if you will, or allowing it to occur was a great example for our community. It was great to. And then Mr. Shields was part of that. We had many conversations as we started making that happen back in the early 2000s is when we started this process. And so it's been about 12, 13 years that we've been working closely, certainly with the community of Brooks, and it's been a great partnership.
It's those kinds of things. I mean, there was the floods that occurred down here in this area a few years ago, and there's communities that are close that have the agreements to cooperate and share, right?
Yeah.
But because of the relationships that were built, somebody picks up a phone and says, "You've got this kind of equipment. Can you share that type of thing?" And you just don't question it, whether there's policies, because it's usually communities are adjoining that have those agreements, right? And for some of it we weren't, but it didn't matter because we had those relationships. You just send, take, need, whatever you can. But that also you mentioned the viruses in a sense, and you talked about Ebola, and that's the same thing with health that is now growing. You've got to regionally work at these things. You've got to have backup. You've got to have people in different communities that are working together because we're not isolated. And so what happens in one community can easily happen in another, and we need to have those emergency prepared plans, whether it's Ebola, whether it's fire, floods. We need to work together to share our resources, know what each other's doing, because it can't work in isolation.
And this will come to end of our Global Village. We do have we call just appreciation token for Mr. Martin. This is as you can see it, I guess this is the pharaohs.
Pyramid.
Yeah.
Well,
That is
cool.
That is the pyramid. This is for Mr. Martin, for your wonderful great job that you've been doing for the community
Thank you, Ahmed.
on behalf of Global Village.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Ahmed.
Inspector, for coming to
Thank you for
Global Village.
for asking me to be part of this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and you guys doing a great job, I think, for risking your life day and night to the well-being of all citizens in Alberta. Thank you very much for that selfless. This is the end of our program today, and thank you very much for joining us. I would like to thank County of Newell, City of Brooks, and Medicine Hat College for their continuous support of Global Village Show. Until then, have a great day, and God bless you.